Building a 27-foot above ground pool is essentially putting nearly 20,000 gallons or 150,000 pounds of water in your backyard. If your site is even 1 inch off level, it can literally tear the steel wall apart. We're going to take this empty patch of grass and turn it into a belly flopper's paradise. This is the complete step-by-step install of the AquaDoc 27-foot above ground steel wall pool. Before we get started, I want to give a huge thanks to AquaDoc for sponsoring this build and the video. They sent over the entire kit: rigid steel pool walls, full pump and filter setup, and even a ladder. It's an everything in one box solution delivered right to your door on a pallet. And if you're anything like me, that's going to save you probably 26 trips to the hardware store. Before you touch a shovel, dial 811 and get everything marked, because if you hit a gas line, the pool party's over before you even get started. Also, check with your HOA if you happen to have one, because you don't want to get a cease and desist letter mid-build. One word of caution here: don't build on filled dirt, dig down to solid earth. We're going to remove all the sod, level the ground, and compact it down till it feels like concrete. If your base layer shifts, you run the risk of your liner tearing. Depending on your site, preparation of that ground is probably going to be the most time-consuming part of the whole process. I felt like the easiest thing to do would be to start by just drawing the perimeter of the pool so that we could get a gauge on where we were going to work. You need to remove all the sod, and you really need to remove it from about a foot beyond the perimeter of the pool as well, so we probably could have got away with just drawing the outer circle here. If your site is relatively level, then this will probably be the only time you'll need to use the paint to mark the perimeter of the pool and the outer edge. Unfortunately for us, our site is not level, not even close. So it's time to start digging and digging and digging some more. And well, after about a half hour, we had to make an executive decision. And that decision was basically to quit working because, well, it's theoretically possible that we could have dug all this out by hand. There's really no reason for that. Because it turns out my nephew knows a guy named Possum, and Possum has a skid steer. And y'all just don't know how happy I was to see Possum show up, because in about an hour and a half, Possum did with his skid steer what probably would have took us about 4 or 5 Sundays in a row with shovels to accomplish. So I want to give Possum a huge shout out and big thanks for giving us a rock solid and super level patch of earth to go ahead and build this pool on. Several days later, it has rained for about the last 3 days since we dug this out. Until it dries up some, there's really not a whole lot we can do. We let it dry out for a good bit and also scrape the top layer before we put our sand down. Now, this is a very crucial part. This is the part that you don't really want to rush. You do have to be precise here. A 27-foot pool is a lot of distance from one side to the other, and being off level just a little bit can really make a huge difference on the other side of the pool. Now, one thing to note here, we're using mortar sand under this pool. It's not play sand. A lot of people probably already know that, but just in case you're not sure, mortar sand is going to be slightly coarser. It's more angular. It does compact better. It drains better. It holds its shape once you level it better. Play sand is going to be very fine. It's soft. It can shift easily. It holds water longer, and it's more likely to create low spots over time. And you can buy it in bulk, and to be honest, you're going to need quite a bit of it depending on the size of the pool. I'll get into the cost of that a little later in the video, but it's going to be something that you're going to need quite a bit of even if you get the smallest pool.
The bottom track is your map. If the circle isn't perfect, then the steel wall won't close at the end. We're using a center stake and a tape measure to ensure that our 27-foot diameter is dead on. And we're going to put patio blocks under every post for extra stability.
You can always remark with paint your perimeter here if you need to. We didn't actually do that. All we did is measure from the center point out to the first block that we did, made it level, and then leveled everyone thereafter to the first one. And we just used the bottom rail pieces themselves to gauge the distance between the blocks. And in addition to using those rails as a way to keep the blocks spaced apart from each other, we just measured the center of each block from the center pole in the middle of the pool at 13.5 feet, making sure that we kept that 27-foot diameter. Once your site is completely level and you have the ring built, this is the part where I tell you to take a break and assess everything before you move forward, because once you start rolling out the wall, you're not going to want to stop.
Word to the wise here, this roll is heavy, so make sure that you have a good sized hand truck, or don't take your tractor back with the bucket before you put it down here where you need it. This is the part where you're going to need some friends, because one gust of wind could turn this thing into a giant sail. So we're going to put it in the track and roll it around as we go. And hopefully by the time we get halfway through, some other people will show up to help us. All right, David, let's do it. I'll hold it, you roll it.
Not only do you need to make sure that you're ready to move forward and you have enough people to move forward, you need to make sure that you understand that you really can't stop at this point, because there is no stability in this wall until you're completely done building the pool. So once you start putting it in the ring, you need to make sure that you're ready to go and continue moving forward with building the pool. You can get this whole thing up bolted together, but one good wind gust can blow it all down really quickly until you have the liner in and the top rails on. Once it's completely rolled out and all in the track, you're going to close the circle by bolting both ends together. Once you're done bolting it, I recommend getting these top ridge rail pieces on as quickly as possible. Once that top ring is completed, then the pool does have a little more rigidity and you can move on to the outer supports. And I'd recommend attaching every outer support at the bottom before you put the liner in. That way when you stretch the liner over the top, it's very easy to just attach the top of the support at that time. Before the liner goes in though, you need to cover that seam of bolts with flashing tape or duct tape. I wouldn't recommend stopping and doing it when you bolt it together though. I'd wait and do it until after the rails have been done. That way your pool is a little more stable and you can take time to do it properly.
A lot of people will skip this foam cove around the perimeter. Don't be that person, because that is what protects your liner from the metal parts.
Each cove piece has a self-adhesive backing that just peels and sticks along the bottom edge of the pool. After you're done putting the cove in, the last thing you're going to do before you put the liner in is spread out this layer here. It's just a layer that goes between the sand and the liner.
If you lay the liner out in the sun for about 30 minutes, it will make it stretchier and easier to work with.
To install the liner, all you really do is spread it out, and once it overhangs your pool by a couple inches, you start in this one area and just work your way around the pool with these plastic pieces that are going to go around the entire top edge of the pool.
Last thing you're going to do after you put the liner on is attach your top rails. It's also time to go ahead and screw in the top portion of those upright posts that we put on the bottom earlier.
And the reason we left them loose is this piece clamps over the plastic piece which holds the liner in. From there, all you do is screw the top rail pieces onto each one of those clamps. There's 2 screws on each side of each one of those pieces, so you have 4 screws going into each top rail piece that connect those clamps together. One thing I forgot to mention is the center screw on the top rail here that you're looking at. Leave that slightly loose when you do install those. It'll just prevent you from having to go back and loosen it up because these plastic pieces do go up under there and you tighten it down afterwards. The very last portion of installing the top rail is just pulling this plastic cap over the top where they connect together, and then you pull the two tabs in front and it just locks down underneath. Gives you a very finished look, and at this point you're really done completing the structure of the pool.
As you're filling the pool, after it fills up about 2 to 3 inches, somebody's going to need to get in there with their bare feet and kind of shuffle around and get the wrinkles out of it. I'm not sure which one of those guys actually got in there and did that. I know they did it. Pretty cold. I'm glad I wasn't here because I didn't want to be part of that. Once the pool fills up about halfway, you can go ahead and install your skimmer basket. You're going to want to cut out the part that's inside the skimmer basket, but don't do that until it's installed. So you're going to install it first and then cut out the center. And the same thing is true with the return line. You're going to go ahead and install that. Real easy to do. The holes are pre-drilled. You just have to install it and cut it out. AquaDoc included a pump and a high flow sand filter with this kit. For right now, we're just making a level part in the ground where we can put the pad and the pump. We'll come back later and put some concrete blocks or even pour a concrete pad in here. It actually comes with a molded pad already, so you really don't need to do much other than level your ground if you don't want to.
They each come with their own instruction manual, so just follow the manufacturer's instruction to put those together and to hook them up to the pool. It's a simple enough process and really doesn't warrant more time in the video.
Always make sure you're using a GFCI dedicated outlet. Water and electricity are a bad mixture, and you're going to want to make sure that you bond the pool. It's really important that it's done. Your pump grounds to it, and the entire pool is surrounded by wire and a grounding rod and connected in several different places to make sure that it's safe for everyone to swim in. Just a disclosure, I'm not a qualified electrician, and if you're not really familiar with this type of thing, this is somewhere where you probably want to go ahead and hire an electrician to do this for you. When you go to fill this thing, don't put just any kind of sand in it. They make special pool sand for it. It's a whole nother video, but just know you're not going to be using regular sand.
AquaDoc also includes this really sturdy ladder with the kit that makes entry and exit from the pool very easy.
We're going to more than likely build a deck around this pool. If you guys want to see that process as well, let me know in the comments and we'll make that video as well. Now that this AquaDoc 27-foot above ground pool is actually up and halfway full of water, you can really tell how rock solid it's built. And really all there is left to do is continue to fill it full of water, and once it gets full, we'll balance the alkalinity and pH, give it a shock, let it circulate, and then retest the water and see what else needs to be done, if anything. But it's pretty much ready to go once it's full. I do need to talk about some of the additional costs that you're going to run into, or you'll probably run into when you're building your pool kit. One of the things is the sand that goes underneath the pool. You wouldn't really think that sand would cost this much, but this is a lot of sand, and we put $975 just in sand. Another thing that you might have to pay for is an electrician. If you get a qualified electrician to come out and run your electric for you, which we're doing, that's $1,500 in our case. Now, it may cost you less or more. This is a pretty long run from the house to the pool. If yours is much closer to your house, it may not cost you that much. Another thing is tool rental. Now, we were fortunate to get the skid steer for free as well as the labor to drive it. However, we did have to rent a tamp machine and a transit level. We didn't really have to rent those things. We could have done that by hand, but it was much easier to do with those tools, and those two things together cost $200 to rent. So we ended up putting in about $2,700 in additional cost to build the pool. So factor those things in when you go ahead and budget for this. You will definitely need a fence around the pool for safety. In most cases, you're going to want to do that fairly quickly, so just go ahead and have that in mind. And also, if you want any decking around the pool, that's going to be an additional cost. Those are all things that you want to factor in when you're deciding what type of pool to get and what your total budget might end up being. Now, there's a couple common mistakes that you really want to avoid when you're doing this process. Number one would being out of level. You really want to make sure that you're level before you get started rolling that wall out. Another common mistake would be not pulling the right permits or getting permission from your HOA before you start. If you happen to have one, that can really cause problems for you down the road, may end up causing you to have to even take it down once you've built it or get stopped mid-build. You definitely don't want that. Another common mistake is not doing the electrical properly. If you're not sure how to do that, just hire an electrician. It's well worth the investment to have it done right. Definitely use pool sand, like I mentioned before. And another thing you'll want to be aware of is just make sure that you properly balance the water chemistry before you start swimming. I've got plenty of other videos on this channel about balancing water chemistry. I'll link these pool kits down below in the description, as well as some of the chemicals that you may use to start the pool. Those are affiliate links. They help the channel at no extra cost to you. I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you using those links. If this helped you out, then please hit that like button, that subscribe button, the hype button, do all the things that make the video do what it do. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.